Good Monday morning and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. As always today, we are also on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and 88.1 WBFH The Biff. Today, our Facebook partner via Facebook Live broadcasting us is our friends over at the Orchard Mall. And as always, joining us today from her home studio is Ronnie Dahl.
And as you did mention, Tyler, today is Martin Luther King Day. Did you realize that it wasn't until 1983 that President Ronald Reagan signed a bill creating the U.S. federal holiday? I thought it was around much longer than that.
Yeah, so did I. I thought that it had, that's a little bit of a surprising fact to learn, but at the same time, can't be all too surprised that it took that long. It was only about 20 years or so after his death. Then there was still a lot of other turmoil politically and socially and racially in the U.S. before that, and until his role in American history and in the positive parts of American history were recognized by President Reagan and then further on by our entire American society year in and year out.
Yeah, so it's observed on the third Monday of January, and it was first celebrated in 1986. And this is a day for people all across the country to give pause to his life, his legacy, and his service to our country as well. And sadly, more than 40 years after his death, we are still in the midst of so many issues that he was fighting against as well.
Yeah, a lot of similarities between the times in which Dr. King was fighting for equity and for justice and for equality. We're seeing a lot of those same fights being taken back to the streets, to protesting, to peaceful interactions, to trying to get those issues on the forefront politically in our country and have some progress and some conversation be had about those issues. And there's been some progress in the time since Dr. King's death, but not nearly enough, and we still have a very long way to go before we're at a point where we have not only achieved his dream, but provided an opportunity for people across all different backgrounds in our country to have an equal opportunity, to have equity in the rule of law and in the way that our country is led. And so it's a good message today on the day we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to remind us of how far we have come and how far we still need to go, and understand, especially in the context of what has been going on in our country lately, that we need to really re-spark those conversations peacefully and try to find some sort of common ground while weeding out those incredibly detrimental parts of our society that have creeped their ugly heads in as of late.
Oh, well, and one of the good things yesterday, of course, the armed protest taking place in Lansing, it did turn out to be a peaceful protest, actually more law enforcement and members of the media there than some of the members of the militia and these right-wing groups that were anticipated to show up. They did not show up. However, we have a long week ahead of us with the inauguration. Security is going to remain extremely tight, not just in the nation's capital, but also across the country as well, at nation's capitals in Lansing and all across the United States. And just as a reminder, Martin Luther King had so many amazing quotes. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. And that is such a good reminder for all of us as we continue to go through this turmoil and our elections, but also with the crisis and the pandemic as well. We should just remember, be kind, just be kind. That's all you need to do. Even if you disagree with people, just be kind. With that though, Tyler, let's go ahead and jump into the day's headlines. We knew this was coming, and Michigan has now identified its first case of the COVID-19 variant. Michigan Department of Health and Human Services identified the state's first case Saturday. It was an adult female living in Washtenaw County. Now, she had recently traveled to the United Kingdom. That's where the variant is believed to have originated. Person's close contacts, they are in a quarantine right now as well. The B117 is believed to be more contagious but there has been no indication that it affects the clinical outcomes or the disease severity. A report that was published recently by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the variant's higher rate of transmission could lead to more cases, increasing the number of persons overall who need clinical care. And of course, the concern here is that it is going to add to the stress that our hospital systems are already experiencing as well. We are expecting the state to give a new update later today about COVID-19, and I'm anticipating that they are going to be speaking about the variant as well, Tyler.
Yeah, that variant has become a bigger story now that it has traveled into the United States. Of course, its origins, as far as we know at this point in time, are from the United Kingdom. Good news is that as far as they have indication in the scientific community right now, they do believe that the COVID-19 vaccine will battle against that. That being said, it is still very early on in this, and with this variant being present in the state of Michigan and in the United States, all the more reason to take those precautions that we've been taking even more seriously, because, as you said, this particular variant has shown to be more contagious than the COVID-19 we've been battling since March of 2020.
Well, the vaccine rollout has been a nightmare for so many of the teachers. After months of teaching children through a computer screen, balancing time between home and the classroom, then finally getting the green light to return to the classroom, Michigan teachers are dealing with yet another setback. Many of them have been unable to get the COVID-19 vaccine, and it hasn't been because they haven't been trying. In the last week, many teachers across Metro Detroit have been dealing with a logistical nightmare in their efforts to get vaccinated by March 1st. Remember, that's the date that the governor has said that she wants all schools to offer some type of in-class learning. Though many teachers fear they may not be able to get vaccinated in time, given the confusion and the backlogs they've encountered since they became eligible for the vaccine on January 6th. Many teachers can't get the appointments, even after trying for days. And some have been able to get the first shot, but they haven't been able to get the second shot. And you have to remember too, this is a 2-dose inoculation. And so there is that 3-week period in between the shots that they need to wait. So when we're thinking March 1st is still a ways away, it really isn't when we're trying to get our teachers vaccinated before they head back to the classrooms.
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate about how do we modify the rollout of these vaccines to make a wider spread group of people be able to be vaccinated in a timely manner. Should it still continue to be in this orderly fashion where it's very much prioritized amongst the people of our country and our individual states that are doing their own individual mandating of rolling these out? But at the same time, you have these certain industries like education where they're trying to go back into some sort of a regular capacity of their operations by March 1st. That's very time sensitive. There should be some space at the front of the line for these educators. That being said, that area has been made and the rollout has been delayed and delayed and delayed. And I think the biggest concern right now is for those that have gotten that first round of the vaccine but may not get that second round in a timely manner, because it's really just not effective if you had one round but not the other. And then you have the logistical nightmare again down the road of trying to get back into line, get another first vaccination and another second vaccination, which may be even less timely. And at this point, the way things are going, we may not have schools back in person in any capacity as far as the governor's goals are concerned on March 1st.
Birmingham Fire Chief wants to administer COVID vaccine to its residents. The city of Birmingham is asking the state of Michigan and Oakland County if it can receive COVID-19 vaccine doses so paramedics can inoculate the city's residents, especially the senior citizens and essential workers, through a pilot program. The city already has enough needles and syringes to vaccinate 5,500 residents. That's according to Paul Wells. He's the fire chief, as well as the city's emergency manager. And the county welcomes its community partners to offer suggestions on how to help. However, they're open to looking at other means for getting the vaccine, but they still just don't have an adequate supply to implement something directly into a community. That's according to Bill Mullen. He is the spokesperson for the county executive, Dave Coulter. They've already tried to come up with some other solutions by offering these drive-through vaccination sites. But again, this has been a supply and demand issue. He did say, though, the Paul Wells did say that, the fire department, they can do it because they have already been giving out the flu shot every year to the employees. They've been doing that for 25 years. They're an advanced life support agency with 32 licensed paramedics, 90% of whom have already received their vaccine. But again, this is a supply and demand issue. There just isn't enough vaccine to go around to get it to the people in which they've rolled out this program for. So it does look like this is, pushing our timeline back as it is because of those supply issues. I will say, Tyler, we went through this in the beginning with the testing. It would seem to me that they've had enough time to get some of these logistical issues worked out before it just kind of, it's like they threw it out there to see what would work. And there are logistics behind trying to make this work. And it's turned into a nightmare for so many people.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like the variations in planning just weren't there. If A, then B. If C, then D was not necessarily planned for, or it was planned in a way that has now been realized to be unviable as we're going forward through this era, this part of the COVID-19 era, as we're trying to get vaccines out to the general public. It seemed like they wanted to have it in an orderly fashion, in a prioritized fashion, and they had a lot of momentum initially with these vaccines being rolled out, but maybe got a little too ahead of themselves. And now as our state and as our county and as the CDC continues to try to adjust to those delays and to those hiccups, it seems like there is still a major imbalance there that's going to throw this timeline off by at least a couple of months, but maybe even several.
I'm really surprised as to why they went ahead and included the general public 65 years and older into this rollout before allowing teachers and other essential workers to get vaccinated first.
Yeah, it is interesting to me too, because a lot of these people that have been in that category have been encouraged to stay home unless they absolutely have to go out, because they are more vulnerable to contracting COVID-19 and to having severe symptoms. And that's most likely why they were in that group. But I do also agree that it's probably logistically more sound to get people that are essential people on the front lines, like teachers, like those that are working in grocery stores and those working in medical facilities and those working directly with people to make our society move forward and protect our society, like first responders, and then move on to category 1A or category 1B, whatever you want to call it, that would include the most vulnerable populations. That way you're not having so much of the general public in that rollout, and when you have a limited amount of vaccines, if there's a little bit of spillover, whether you have extra vaccines, then you can start that phase at an earlier time.
And let's just be honest. I mean, this isn't something that's new or a new issue, because we've seen this for years. I mean, as a reporter for 3 years, I focus solely on so many of these issues where the government has these programs or they say, hey, it works like A, B, C, D, and E. And then when the average person actually goes to try to utilize that program or get the help that they need, it doesn't always work the way the politicians like to portray it in that 15-second soundbite. So this is not a new problem, but, come on, we got to get this right if we want to get our economy.
Some anticipation has to be made. Some anticipation has to be there. This can't be a situation. My qualm with the way that this rollout has had its issues is it does seem at times like the government is having an issue with adjusting and anticipating where problems are going to be, instead of anticipating what those problems may be as they're starting to arise and adjusting. Then they're waiting until those problems become big problems in the rollout, and then accepting the delays and adjusting from there, which, if that's the way that we're operating, it's going to cause even more delays and even more headaches as time goes on. instead of trying to have some sort of anticipation there and make some minor adjustments gradually instead of major adjustments after the fact.
Well, let's hope that they are able to get it worked out, because we do know that these companies making the vaccine, they are working around the clock,
Yes.
including the Pfizer manufacturing plant right here in the state of Michigan. They're working around the clock to make as many vaccines as possible. We have to keep in mind they're not making them just for Americans. This is happening for countries all across the globe. So fingers crossed things get a little bit smoother coming into the next couple of months. So with that though, Tyler, we have a great show ahead for everyone here on Martin Luther King Day. We'll be speaking with Dave Garcia. He's the Executive Director of Affirmations. Dr. Britt Rios-Ellis will be joining us with us at 10:40. She's the new provost and the executive Vice President for Academic Affairs over at Oakland University. She's just starting her job, 2021. So what a time to start a new job. We'll be checking in with her. That's about 10:40. And then in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll have the principal for Doherty Elementary with us, as well as the chair for the Michigan Democratic Party. So we have a lot to talk to on this Martin Luther King Day, but we're going to take a quick break before we get the show started.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/containcovid.
I want to say thank you for taking time out of your Monday, Martin Luther King Day, to be with us here on the Megacast. Many people do have the day off of work to observe the MLK holiday. And if you are one of those people, please take a few moments to be of service of someone else on this day. Sadly, the pandemic, while it has brought some people closer together, it has not brought our nation closer together. Threats continue against members of the LGBTQ community. To talk a little bit more, we're going to bring in Dave Garcia. He's the Executive Director for Affirmations in Ferndale. Dave, great to have you with us.
Good morning. Happy MLK Day.
If we could, we just have your logo right now. Are you available to be on camera?
Good morning.
Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you virtually.
Absolutely, you too.
For those not familiar with Affirmations, fill us in on the work that you and your team do over there.
Sure. Affirmations is Michigan's largest LGBTQ community center. We're located in the heart of Ferndale. We primarily serve Southeast Michigan, although many of our programs are across the entire state and really across the country, as we've seen with the uptick of our Zoom technology, which we can talk about. But Affirmations covers all programming from young adults all the way up to our LGBTQ seniors and everybody in between. Many recovery groups meet at Affirmations, trans groups, coming out groups. We have a lot of arts and entertainment. We have a large art gallery, so we do art openings and a lot of concerts and just community events. Affirmations also has HIV testing and mental health counseling. So we do quite a bit at the center.
Well, and quite a bit. And we are, like you said, in the middle of this crisis.
Sure.
Has the need gone up for your services during this time?
Yeah, it really has. I mean, it was very difficult. We've had to close our doors, of course, but we are still running all programs. So all of our support groups that we just talked about are now online. Even our LGBT seniors are meeting online, and we had to get, of course, iPads, Amazon tablets into their hands and train them so that we can continue to combat things like isolation in our LGBTQ community. But the food program, we never had a food program before COVID, and we just served our over 4,000 meals out of Affirmations. So people drive up to the back of Affirmations. We just ask them to open their trunk. We put in food boxes and toiletries, socks, shampoos, toothpaste, anything along those lines, they can get at Affirmations as well. That's every Wednesday and Friday. And while the building's open for the food program, we have HIV testing by appointment only. So our entire portfolio has shifted, but the demand has grown. That makes it difficult when you're losing revenue in things like special events. You know, we have an annual black tie event that we lost. Well, that's over 100,000 in revenue right there. Our wine party is very popular at Affirmations, and you lose the revenue from that too. And so while demand is increasing for services, it remains a challenge when your building is closed. We own our building in Affirmations. It's a 17,000 square foot building in the heart of Ferndale. We often rent out rooms to the community who are using our space. That all goes away as well. And so you can start to see the challenges that not just Affirmations, but all community centers, especially LGBTQ community centers, face across this country, especially now when the need is even greater.
And we know that, you know, the fundraising efforts have continued, and there's just, even for like some of these virtual platforms, it's just not the same.
It's not the same. And we've had to be very creative. You know, because we've lost so many of our events, we did a telethon for the first time. And it ended up being a 9-hour-long telethon that we broadcast through Zoom and our other social media channels to make up for lost revenue. We did a bike event from Detroit to the other side, from Lakeshore to Lakeshore. We left from Detroit and ended up in South Haven, and to raise some funds as well. So just creative things that we can continue to do, knowing that we can't all get together. And then, you know, let's face it, individual giving, which is always so important to any nonprofit, some of that goes down from folks worried that they're going to lose their job or they have lost their job. But in other cases, people that haven't lost their job see the need and they step up and give more, whether that's individuals or foundations on a grant line item. So we're trying to make up for lost revenue in one area by enhancing revenue in the others.
And so with that, I worry about two groups, the young kids that are struggling with their identity, but also some of our senior citizens during this time, because as you just mentioned, you had to get them some of these devices and get them trained. But there are a lot of seniors that still do not have the internet, nor do they want the internet. So I feel like there are gaps of individuals that we're going to really have to work and connect with coming out of this crisis.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, whether that's our youth who are now on different platforms, the youth use a platform called Discord, and then but you know, you have to consider a young person who once was able to get to Affirmations where they could be around other LGBT youth their age and like them and be out and open, or even if they're a trans individual, to be their complete self at Affirmations. But while they're at home, many remain in the closet, or they can't they can't be their true selves at their homes. And so many of our youth have their headphones on up in their, bedrooms, and maybe the parents think they're playing a video game, but they're actually talking to other young LGBTQ youth. And that's as safe as we can try to be. Of course, those rooms are monitored. But when you talk about LGBTQ seniors, I don't think people really realize or even give it thought that a lot of these seniors lost their jobs when they came out. They weren't able to get married. And so they may have been with their partners for, 50 years, but because marriage is relatively new, they can't fall back on that Social Security safety net. They often lost the family safety net because they lost their families when they came out. They often don't have children because that's relatively new for the LGBT community to be having children and the safety net of your children as you get older. And then when one of their partners dies, they often go to an assisted living facility that is religious based, because so many are. And then out of fear that they will not be cared for correctly, or safely or with compassion, they end up going back into the closet for the last years of their lives after living an out life. And even if that assisted living facility isn't homophobic, many lack the basic cultural competency and scientifically accurate care for our community. And so, yes, in every aspect, when you think across the entire spectrum of our community, COVID has affected us greatly.
And with this, it's amazing to me. This is 2021 and we're still having this conversation, but it has been very real. How has this past election, the presidential election, played into the politics of your community?
Well, I'll say that, I just got back from Los Angeles. I was Affirmations Executive Director. I left in 2014 to the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center to start their public policy wing. And I stayed there for over 5 years before returning home. Affirmations had run into some financial difficulties. I certainly wasn't going to let it fail along with the community. So I came home a year and a half ago, and we're doing fine now financially. From an advocacy perspective, many community centers feel that they can't get involved because they're C3 organizations. But really what that means is we can't tell you who to vote for or who not to vote for. That does not mean that community centers have a responsibility to educate our community on attacks to our community. For example, all the trans women of color being killed across our nation and even in Detroit. The religious exemption, which I will continue to say is the greatest threat to the LGBTQ community since HIV/AIDS. And we are seeing now across this country, people, the LGBTQ community being turned away in primary care and in mental health care with people that hide behind the religious exemption. Even a couple years ago, right here in Detroit, a pediatrician refusing to treat a baby because the baby's parents are lesbians. We're seeing more and more of that across the country. And now with a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court, I can guarantee you we're going to see even more. And so every LGBT community center has a responsibility to fight back against that. And I don't care if it is a Democrat or a Republican, if Joe Smith is behind that initiative, Joe Smith deserves to be called out. And we have to do a better job of protecting our community, everyone that walks through the doors of our community center or calls us on the phones.
So with that, as we all know, we're 10 months now into this crisis. How is the crisis in getting the care that members of your community need, how has that been impacted?
Well, overall, it impacts all of us, right? And we all are in this together. And I say that, for example, we mentioned the food program, 4,000 meals. When we fill up those cars that come behind Affirmations, we don't ask them if they're LGBTQ or straight. It is our community and we are the community center. And so we don't care what your sexual orientation is. And as Affirmations pivots and starts to grow in more health and human services, we will be having primary care, for example, at Affirmations soon. We're doing that to respond to what we see happening across our country, especially highlighted now during COVID, the inequities that our community faces. And again, I'm not just talking about homophobia, although that's obvious. I'm talking about culturally competent, scientifically accurate care. I can't tell you how many people tell us, they'll call us at Affirmations and say, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a real estate agent, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a therapist, and I'm gay friendly. Can I be in your resource guide? Well, what does that mean to be gay friendly? I appreciate it that you might have gay friends or that you might have gay family members. But if you're a doctor, do you know what PrEP is? Are you aware of pre-exposure prophylaxis? Are you educated on it? And are you educating our community on it? Are you an expert in LGBTQ seniors, as we just talked about? The trans community, do you know hormone therapy? Not just are you gay friendly, are you competent? Are you educated? And because I don't see as much of that as we should across our state, I think organizations like Affirmations have a responsibility when we can, and if we have the space like Affirmations does, to provide culturally competent, scientifically accurate healthcare and mental health services for our community. And as you said, COVID has just exposed more than ever why that's necessary. And politically, when you have Donald Trump's administration arguing before the Supreme Court, sending an amicus brief before the Supreme Court that our community can be fired as long as that fire is justified by religion, we got a problem. And we all need to work together, and not just the LGBTQ community, right? You can see where this might lead. If you give people a free card to discriminate based on your religious beliefs, well, what's to stop a Jewish doctor from serving or for treating a Muslim patient? Or this isn't just about wedding cakes. That's what drives me crazy. It's not just, although the wedding cake issue is important, we're talking about life and death issues. And we are talking about homophobia justified by religious discrimination.
Why do you think we're still at this point? Because once, once marriage was legalized, I thought that would start to open up the dialogue and at least allow these conversations that once were uncomfortable, or that a lot of families don't want to have as well, that it would at least start to allow people to live in an open, loving community. And I know that's big hopes, but it's sad that we need laws to even make this happen, but the laws are there, and it's like you're still reminding everyone even to today.
Yeah, but let's not lose focus, especially on MLK Day, that progress is slow, and there is no doubt that we are in a better place now than we have been in the past. And while the Trump administration specifically was a tremendous step back for our community and the equal rights and protections for our community, we are still making progress. I say all the time, 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still progress. It's just going to be slow, but slow and steady. And we see it. And you're right, it isn't just about the laws. The laws are very important, but changing hearts and minds is more important. That is why Harvey Milk said, come out wherever you are, because he knew the more people that came out within their own family units, within their own communities, then people would be forced to ask themselves, this isn't just about those gay people. This is about my son or my neighbor or my colleague. That is why we have seen the progress that we've seen, and we will continue to make progress. But progress comes with a few of those step backs. And that's why we need community centers, to be there when our community needs mental health or primary care, or frankly, just to have fun, just to come to the community center to an art, wine opening, just to come to the community center to see a comedian, or to just be around each other. You see so many LGBTQ bars closing across this country, especially now during COVID. It was already happening. And now, especially, Ann Arbor just lost the Out Bar, for example. So community centers become even more important for a meeting space for people of our community. And I include the straight community with that. There's a reason it's LGBTQA, right? Allies are important. We should certainly be talking about allies on Dr. King's Day, and the importance of white allies to the civil rights movement, for example, and the importance of straight allies to our movement today.
Yeah, and with that, because some people feel like, hey, I can't go and take advantage of some of these services, or to be a voice or be an advocate for people that look different than them, or are of even a different religion or a different background than what they believe in. But it really is about building that community and stitching the community together.
It is, and it's about recognizing that many issues are LGBTQ issues. I serve on the board of directors of Centerlink, which is the National LGBTQ Community Centers Network. It's a national organization. There's over 250 community centers. We have a policy and advocacy arm of that organization. And every time we send out something on immigration, we get a lot of pushback, even from within our own community. But immigration is an LGBTQ issue. When I was in Los Angeles, we had people coming from all over the world that if they got sent back to their countries, they would be imprisoned or killed, right? We saw the people coming up from the caravan from Central America. And it was so bad for the LGBT people within that caravan of suffering that they had to break away. And when they got to Tijuana, it was my team in LA who met them and got them medicine and our lawyers with credible fear claims. But my point is, or dreamers, how, that 30% of dreamers are LGBTQ. So immigration is an LGBTQ issue. And I could say that domestic violence is just as prevalent in the LGBTQ arena as it is in the straight community. Domestic violence is an LGBTQ issue. And I couldn't go on and on, but that is so key and so important, that we're not just talking about HIV. We are not just talking about the religious exemption. I think to your point, one of the reasons our movement has made such progress is because LGBTQ people are everywhere, and they're in every family of every race and every religion, and we always have been.
How has your organization been able to try to take advantage of some of the grants that are out there for nonprofits?
Well, that's a good question. We did take advantage of the PPP loan, for example, COVID relief. Oakland County has had some COVID relief funds that we have taken advantage of as well. And then when I got back from Los Angeles, and Affirmations was in a tough financial spot, they had 0 grants. We are over 40 grant now, just a year and a half later. So yes, whether that is from the foundations or whether that is from, folks like General Motors and Ford and Chrysler, they all have given to Affirmations for our youth program all the way up into our senior programs. So individual giving is important. And then of course, corporate giving, sponsorships. But remember, those sponsorships are so often tied to the special events that we're losing. So to find creative ways, so instead of sponsoring a black tie event, maybe this business will sponsor the food program. And we've seen that, for example. So it's just being creative and flexible at a very challenging time.
Do you think your food program is going to stick around post-pandemic?
That is a great question. I do think that it will. And to that, I think a lot of our Zoom meetings, because now that we're meeting by Zoom, one silver lining is we've seen young people in rural areas in our state coming to our Zoom meetings. We've seen trans folks from all over the country coming to our Zoom meetings, right? Or our AA groups. So our seniors who never would have been able to make it to Affirmations every Wednesday for their senior coffee klatch meeting, coming in from all over the state and the country to our senior meetings. So not just the food program, but this evolution that we've made to the Zoom platform, I see that being a hybrid moving forward. Mental health therapy, teletherapy through Zoom. We've seen more of that. We're doing more of that now, and I can't see us going back from that. It'll just be some type of hybrid to continue to meet the need.
Dave Garcia with us here on the Megacast. He's the Executive Director for Affirmations. And with that, Dave, I did recently see there was a news article out about Dave Coulter. He is the state's first openly gay individual that's running a county. What does having someone like him in his position mean to members of your community?
It's very important, and again, it goes right back to that visibility, and not just any county, right? Oakland County, the largest, most wealthy counties in our state. Home of Brooks Patterson, the late Patterson, who was so anti-LGBTQ. So for many reasons, we're very proud that he's there. He used to be the mayor of Ferndale as well. Dave and I have been friends a long time, and when we talk about things like LGBTQ discrimination in mental health or primary care, well, that's something that Affirmations and the county and the county health department can work together to combat and to better serve our community, all of our community. And so I'm proud that he's there. It's great to see him there. Visibility always helps, but more so than visibility, because it's not just about being gay. He's good. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. And we're proud to have him there.
So with that, Dave, what's the future look like for your organization right now?
Well, I don't know when we're going to be able to open our doors again. When it is safe to do so is what I keep saying to everybody. Now, again, our food program continues every Wednesday and Friday, every Friday from 10 to 2, every Wednesday from 4 to 7. And while that is happening, we are still doing HIV testing. When can we open again and be, normal, whatever normal is going to look like? I don't know. As soon as enough people are vaccinated, I would say. Our community is especially at risk, whether that's our LGBTQ seniors or folks who are immune compromised. And so we've got to be careful before we start letting large groups back into the building. But I sure am looking forward to the days we can open those doors.
Oh, it will be so nice, won't it? Dave, quickly before we let you go, how can people find out more about your organization, either to try to take advantage of some of the services and connect with others, or if they want to donate as well?
The easiest way is just to go to our website, which is www.goaffirmations.org. That's the simplest and easiest way to get to know about our services. If you did want to donate, we have many parents, the good parents, not the ones that are kicking their kids out, and that's still happening. But they can go there and they can learn about our parent groups, all of our support groups, and then hopefully very soon some special events. We are doing special events. In fact, we got a play reading coming up, I think, just this weekend. But like you said, it's not the same. And but they can learn about the organization at our website.
Oh, well, you guys are doing such amazing work, and it's trying times for so many organizations such as yours and others across the state of Michigan, but you are needed and you are appreciated.
We appreciate that. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Dave Garcia, Executive Director for Affirmations, located in Ferndale. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the new Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs over at Oakland University. This is the Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
I want to say thank you for taking time out of your Monday to be with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder for those that may be joining us for the first time, Dave Scott and Tyler kind of came up with this show way back at the end of March of last year, at the beginning of this crisis. The intent is to be able to bring you some of the interviews with our decision makers and our news makers throughout Oakland County and the state of Michigan as we all continue to navigate the COVID-19 crisis. While they didn't anticipate it was going to be going on this long, it is still going as strong here Monday through Friday. Tyler and I are here from 10 a.m. until noon, and you can always catch us on Civic Center TV, civiccentertv.com as well, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have cable, you can tune into channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T, 89.3 Lakes FM on the radio, along with 88.1 FM the Biff. And then today we are also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on the Orchard Mall's Facebook page. So we want to say thank you to them. We are on numerous platforms throughout the area, and that is what makes us the Megacast. And joining us now for the first time, she is new to Michigan, Dr. Britt Rios-Ellis. She is the new Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs at Oakland University. Boy, what a time to start a new job.
Do you mean, are you referring to the winter or the pandemic or?
Kind of both. So a little bit about your background. You're actually from the West Coast.
I am.
California, and at least it's been mild so far.
You know, I'm actually loving it. So I'm still the person in the office. Well, after I've been on the job for 2 weeks, but I'm still the person in the office. I get excited when it snows. I'm absolutely thrilled. So, you know, and everyone has just been so kind and gracious and warm. So any temperature changes here have been completely mitigated by just the warmth of the people. So I've really enjoyed my first few weeks.
We're going to check back in with you like next year around this time,
Okay.
Because when it's, you know, March and April and you're still getting snow, and you know, we haven't had those like below zero temperatures yet either, but I will say invest in North Face or Canada Goose. You're going to need it.
Well, I do have my jacket and but I will tell you that 5 days before I interviewed for the job, my home burned down. So we were evacuated, had 20 minutes to leave my home. So snow looks very good to me in any form, or even colder temperatures are feeling really good. So
we forget, you know, wildfires in California, hurricanes in the south. So we forget about all of the other Mother Nature events that can take place in different parts of the country. With that, you've been on the job for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
When you start a new job such as yours in the middle of a pandemic, how do you tackle your goals and what you want to accomplish?
Well, I think, I definitely, my motto is perfect is the enemy of good, right? So every single day trying to learn as much as I can. Pandemics for me, I am a public health person. I've worked a lot in infectious disease. So that part for me, I felt, pretty strong about mitigating. And I really love the way that President Ora Peskovitz has taken on the pandemic. So she's really, we wear bio buttons, there's active testing. Our health center is just, ready to go. We've got freezer capacity for vaccination. It's a very proactive place. And we have really facilitated an environment wherein students are empowering themselves to manage these types of things. And I think, what a better opportunity to work with students to really teach them, because, I would love to say that this is the last pandemic, but given globalization, it most definitely is not. So acquiring those skills, because so many of us learn our life skills during our college experience. So I just love the way that it's all been constructed. We fill out daily health reports. Everyone makes sure we're safe. We're working here. We have masks on. So we wear our Grizz masks all the time when we're meeting with other people. It's just highly proactive. And I really have enjoyed that. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to Oakland.
So with that, what is the status of getting your professors and members of the staff vaccinated? Have you heard anything about that yet?
Right now we're in a waiting mode, but I would say a waiting mode and, really being prepared. We have an outstanding student health center. We obviously are connected to a medical school. We train nurses, all kinds of public health folks. We convened a vaccination task force. We're meeting regularly. So we're moving as fast as we can.
And with that, I understand, I believe you guys are back to some in-person learning right now, correct?
We are, as of the 19th.
And what is that looking like for students this year?
So what it means for this year is that we will go back to what we had originally planned, that, most classes will be online or in a hybrid mode, but there are things we just can't teach in that mode. So for those courses, they'll be meeting in person, and some other courses as well with laboratories, again, but really facilitating the personal empowerment around how to mitigate risk. And we're doing very, very well.
So what about some of the students right now that maybe are on the edge about doing gap years, or that have decided not to continue in a 4-year institution, but maybe are going to a community college because they can't get that on-campus experience that they want out of their university?
So, again, that was one of the things that really attracted me to Oakland. Our campus is open. You can go to the library and you see students studying. You go to our center and students are there studying, meeting safely, distance and safely. But our campus is still open.
So we haven't seen the outbreak at Oakland University. There have been some outbreaks, but not to the degree that we've seen on some other college campuses across the state of Michigan. What's being done this semester that's been different than, and you've only been on the job for 2 weeks, so you really probably can't even answer this. I'm wondering about the students that are there, that are in the dorms. Are they having to, get a negative test every so many weeks or something of that nature?
So it's about education and empowerment. So we do test folks when they're coming in, and we test folks when they're coming into school and when they leave. So when they come in, we're testing. So we make sure that that we've mitigated as much as we can. And testing is available at the Student Health Center, and folks are encouraged to test.
So you come into the job, you've been there for 2 weeks. Now you're trying to learn a new job in the middle of a crisis and a pandemic and get your handle on things. Mm-hmm. But what do you think is going to be your goal 2 and 3 years out? And will this pandemic have a lasting impact on higher education?
So I definitely think in terms of the impact, it's taught us to pivot quickly. It's taught us, different modes. And Oakland has taken, again, a very proactive stance in terms of training faculty to teach online. 2-3 years out, my role is to make sure that we are supporting the 4 pillars of why Oakland is a university of choice. So that's, all about student success, all about developing research, looking at opportunities for interdisciplinary and interprofessional research, engaging the community, such as with our Pontiac initiative, and then really doing that in an environment that honors and integrates diversity and inclusive excellence, which is really central to my leadership and what I can bring and what Oakland's already doing. We have a wonderful vice president for diversity and inclusive excellence.
So I'm fascinated because you started out with a BA in political science and Spanish.
Yes.
What made you switch to health and fitness?
So I actually started out wanting to be a politician, if you can believe that. So, and then I realized that health was very political, very, very political, and impacting communities. So being able to go and really work with communities and under all kinds of realms, but also in terms of an educational platform, we know that education, particularly higher education, makes a difference in a variety of life behaviors. So again, students learn their norms usually. I mean, high school is wonderful and you're learning a lot, but students learn their adult behaviors during college. So, and we know that education is the number one social determinant of health. So when folks get degrees and increasing degrees, they live longer, they do better, they're healthier, they're more productive, they're more engaged citizens. So that's what, that's what we want to be a part of. So as I started to go in health, I realized, wow, there was a lot of, there were a lot of things to do. And, thankfully it's something, again, that moving during a pandemic, I do believe you can do so safely. We have, and, we'll keep on leading the university in that direction.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because some of the people, like regular people such as myself, we seem to have been caught so off guard by this pandemic. But yet when you talk to health experts, they're really saying they're surprised it didn't happen sooner.
Yes.
So it's like, where was that lack of communication from getting the public to understand that these things could happen and they're out there? I mean, we know they can happen. I mean, we all went through, the bird flu and SARS, earlier, but it didn't hit the United States like it did Asia.
Yes. And I think pandemics, again, with globalization and everything that's happening, things are going to happen a lot sooner. And it was interesting because when I was back in California, the topic would always come up as, what's going on with the pandemic. And of course, people are asking me. I said one day, I've never lived through a pandemic before, but actually I was in Mexico when H1N1 broke out. And it was a similar, schools closed, restaurants closed, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think we have to be nimble and we have to be able to shift and pivot and really recognize how we can continue to engage students on virtual platforms and on hybrid platforms while we really empower these behaviors. So unfortunately, I think this is something that's going to happen with increasing frequency, and hopefully we can really build at the federal level, at the state level, really building public health and reinforcing it throughout our infrastructures. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came to light during this crisis was also the inequity when it came down to some basic things such as just having computers as well as the internet.
Absolutely.
We forget a lot of areas don't have strong internet connections. And so this has definitely brought some of those issues connected to education to the forefront. So I think the internet should be just one of our basic services that we get at home. I mean, how do you live without the internet right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With that, what do you think is going to be the longer term impact of this pandemic? How is it going to shape higher education?
So I think, obviously we're going through and I hate to throw in health theory, but it's so applicable. So you always have your early engagers, folks who are able to just pivot and keep things going. And then you have folks who might take a semester and then come back and realize that there's really not a lot going on, and what a better time to keep engaging in education. And that's something that I think, again, Oakland has done a great job in making sure that we can keep people engaged. We haven't had the drastic enrollment declines that other institutions have seen. And again, I think it starts at the top. And President Peskovitz has been great at just we're going to stay open. We're going to teach folks what to do around healthy behaviors. We're going to engage them in very proactive ways. And we're going to keep them focused on completing their degrees.
So while enrollment hasn't been going down, what about the number of students living on campus? Because I have to say, if I was a parent paying for room and board, but my kids were learning virtually, I'd be like, you're staying home.
So we do still have a fairly robust number of students who are at the dorms. I mean, obviously some folks went home and are engaged that way, but others are here at the dorms. And, again, we've kept the dorms as safe as possible. And I think we've had, and I don't want you to quote me on this, but if I'm right, we've had less infection among students who are coming on and off, who are living in the dorms, than those who are coming on and off campus. So again, the environment, if you're here on campus, you're seeing that constant reinforcement of what needs to be done to keep people safe.
Dr. Britt Rios-Ellis with us here on the Megacast. She is the Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs over at Oakland University. And with that, Doctor, before we let you go, anything that maybe we didn't ask or touch on that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
I just think that Oakland is a wonderful place to be. It certainly has been that for me since I've started. And I really encourage folks to, particularly if they're trying to finish that degree or maybe even earn a master's degree, we've got a number of outstanding programs. We've got very highly accredited programs and acclaimed programs. So please keep us in mind, encourage family members, and come to Oakland. You'll see us doing exactly what we're supposed to in terms of higher education and moving that along.
So you brought up one thing I should ask about too, when it comes to students trying to get their master's. This is a good time because for so many students, the job market is a little crazy right now because of the pandemic, but I also feel like a lot of the students missed out on the normal internship program because a lot of companies weren't bringing in interns due to the pandemic. So is this a good time for them to consider getting their master's then?
Absolutely. And I think, with that, really thinking about how the world is changing. So, again, we have a number of degree programs that will help folks engage and learn in that environment that is safe.
Well, Doctor, we so appreciate your time and welcome to Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope we have a nice, mild winter to get you through your first year.
I'm doing just great so far. So no worries. A little snow. It looks beautiful to me.
It is pretty, that is for sure. Well, we so appreciate your time. And again, thank you for all that you're doing and good luck in the new position.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. We have a lot to get to in the second hour.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
We appreciate you tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios while Mr. Tyler Keith holds things down back there in the studios in West Bloomfield. Just as a reminder, you can watch and listen on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 if you have AT&T. You can also catch us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Continuing the conversation surrounding education, with us now, Scott Long. He's the principal of Doherty Elementary. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Ronnie. How are you today?
We're great. I just think the teachers have been doing an amazing job with the little ones, because it's got to be so hard to try to explain socially distant and wearing a mask to 5 and 6 year olds.
I got to give a lot of credit. I would agree with you. I got to give a lot of credit to our teaching staff. They have done a phenomenal job, but I also got to give a lot of credit to our parents, because I got to say, 3 or 4 weeks prior to starting school, when we talked as a staff, we had no idea if kids were going to be able to keep masks on, if they were going to be able to stay socially distanced. And they have pleasantly surprised me and gone above and beyond. And so that's a huge tribute to the kids. That's a huge tribute to the parents for reinforcing what we're trying to accomplish in the school. And then obviously a huge tribute to our staff and pretty much unlearning everything they know about what it looks like in a classroom. Typically we have kids huddled together, working in groups, and you don't see that anymore. So definitely all the way around, just a great effort by everybody.
Okay, so now your school is what, K through 2nd grade?
That's correct. It's like my own personal Disney World. It's like, if you're ever in a bad mood, Ronnie, you just come to Doherty Elementary. It's impossible to stay in that bad mood.
I don't know. It seems to me I'd be pulling my hair out, though. The energy of kids, I wouldn't be able to keep up.
The energy, yes, there's definitely a lot of energy, which keeps me young. I can't say that it kept my hair on my head, but it keeps me young. And also, they're just adorable and innocent, and they just want to do the right thing consistently. And so, even if you do, you're struggling with patience, their cuteness and, they're eager to please nature just puts you in the right frame of mind.
So are you in class right now?
We are actually heading back tomorrow. We've been remote for the last 8 weeks, roughly, beginning in November. Before that, we were in class from the end of August all the way up to the beginning of November. And we're heading back tomorrow. So kids are super excited to see each other and be back in class with their friends. I know our staff is really excited. Like you talked about, bless kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grade teachers. They are just chomping at the bit to see their kids again. So.
Right, because it's so much is about relationships, and trying to remote teach, the young ones is a lot different than junior high and high school, because they can kind of grasp some of the things that's going on in the country. But when it comes to the small kids, what's going to be different for them when they go back to the classroom tomorrow?
I think the biggest difference is there's going to be that excitement because they've been learning from a computer screen for so long. And so, like I said earlier, they're so eager to be around learning that, there's just going to be a lot of excitement about things. I think there's probably going to be an underlying fear of, hey, will we get closed down again? And so I think they're going to be extra mindful and extra cautious about making sure their masks are on their face, making sure they're washing their hands. I think they're going to be a little bit more conscientious of those things than a typical kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grader would in a normal, school year. So I think those would be big changes.
Yeah. So is it actually kind of easier to teach them these habits when they're younger because they don't know any different?
Absolutely. That's what I found. And I thought their youth and being so young and energetic would be something that would hamstring them from being successful with those things, but they don't know any different. My son's actually a kindergartner at Doherty, and I was wondering if he would be able to keep his mask on, and he doesn't know any different, and he's just thriving and you know, doing a good job with those things. And I would say the same thing for all of our kids. You know, it hasn't been as much of a battle as we anticipated. Now, I will say we're in a half-day model, right? So like our kids are only with us for a half a day before they go home. We do have a collection of kids that stay on campus for cloud care, for parents that sign their kids up for that, and they're in mass all day, and they're doing just fine with that. So maybe the half-day thing isn't as much of an issue as I thought, just knowing how great our kids are doing that are in the building all day long.
What's you said cloud class? What is that?
Yeah, so we have families that choose to sign their kids up for, essentially it's daycare. So when the kids are done with their cohort, they can stay for another 3 hours in school. Again, all the socially distanced, mask, all those things are taking place, but the kids that are there are basically, they're not with their classroom teacher, but they're doing homework assignments, online learning assignments, they're playing games, they're going outside, eating their lunch, things like that.
Well, I would imagine for parents, that's probably so important, because we have to remember there are some parents that, you know, they do have jobs and it doesn't allow them to be virtual. And so that has to be a relief for a lot of parents out there.
I'm one of those parents. Like I said, you know, my son comes to school with me, and he's the morning cohort, and he can't go home. My wife's working, and so thankfully he's, you know, we're able to pay for that for him to stay on campus. Yeah. So definitely for working families, it does work out really well.
But your poor son, he's like, man, I have my dad as my principal, and then I got to go home too.
You know, it's funny you say that. Like, it's kind of cool to him now, because he does, you know, he's not old enough to like rebel against his dad. You know, by the time he gets to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, he will be gone and he won't have to deal with me. And that's when that, you know, that tension, I think, starts to begin. But it has been a challenge, like over the last 8 weeks. You know, he's doing his remote learning in my hip pocket while I'm doing my job. And I think he started to get a little bit, he wanted his space from dad, you know, so he doesn't see me much when we're actually in the building. I kind of keep my distance from him.
How is the conversation with some of the parents? Because, you know, we're trying to teach the kids, no, you can't be on the computer, no, put that video game down. But yet now we're telling them to sit in front of a computer.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's families on so many ends of the spectrum, right? Some families want more Zoom time and more screen time to keep their kids engaged and busy with learning opportunities. Some families are not entirely happy with how much time the kids are already on there. There's this tension too of families are more than ever being asked to do so many things. Their bandwidth is only so big, right? But they're being parent, they're being teacher in a sense, right? Over the last 8 weeks, they're being disciplinarian, they're being homemaker, cook, and they're working, right? So like, I think for our families, they're really excited to be able to get back to learning and have their kids in the building, to have that space and that breathing room. And I know they're also eager, as things get better with the vaccinations and everything, for our kids to be in the building the entire day, right? So it's all over the spectrum with the families and where they're at with things.
Well, and how's that going too with some of the kids and how they're learning as well? Are they learning at different levels because they are remote, and some are logging on, some are logging off? So what's that going to be like for the teachers to try to get them all back on that same page?
Yeah, they're going to, you know, we can't come back assuming that everyone is all in the same place. And that's the same thing that we talked about at the beginning of the school year. And so teachers are going to have to catch kids up to speed, fill in gaps that, you know, may be existing, because some families are able to help kids more at home over the last 8 weeks. So teachers are ready to roll up their sleeves and support kids and fill in those gaps as needed, and just get kids to where they need to be. Because we know not every home looks different, not every home looks the same. Not every family is able to give that level of academic support, and that's our job, is to get kids to where they need to be.
What about, I read a study recently, and they were talking about the kids and obesity is going up in some of our kids now because they are spending so much time in front of the computer screen. By being able to get them back into the classroom, do you think that's going to help to start to address some of those issues? I
think, you know, there's not a ton of movement in the classrooms right now, right? Because they are 6 feet apart within the classroom. They're not going from their home class to their specials class. So there's not a whole lot of movement going on there. So I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference. But I will say, like, we've really done a phenomenal job with the kids being at home, like creating some movement opportunities. Our physical education teachers are actually doing all their instruction on Zoom. So when the kids are at home, they're doing physical fitness activities and leading the kids and in workouts and exercises. And it's really created kind of a shift in how physical education classes work. Typically, when the kids are in the building doing physical education, it's more team games. It's more basketball, soccer, volleyball. Now what you're seeing is a shift to like exercising and life fitness and health. And so it's really cool to see the kids learn how to exercise and take care of themselves, because that's something that's going to transcend throughout their entire lives. And they're able to talk about nutrition a little bit more now that they're working remotely. The other thing is we've had great support from the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition. And one thing that they've done is they brought a yoga instructor in, and she comes and works with our kids weekly, virtually. So she leads a yoga class, and any kid in our building can sign up and do yoga in the comforts of their home. And so in a way, you know, obviously we see those obesity concerns, but by thinking outside of the box, we've been able to do some things that we wouldn't normally have done.
You know, when I first heard about gym class being virtual, I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. You can't play kickball virtually. I don't even know if you're allowed to play kickball any longer. But then when you really think about it, we've been taking classes, you know, like boot camp classes or whatever online for years now. So it really isn't that much of a shift.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I just started working out in my house and doing the boot camp thing on the TV, and my son's watching it, and the exercises are a little bit too advanced for him. So for his physical education teacher, she can bring it down a level to where he's capable of doing those motor movements and being successful. And guess what? He's seeing his friends do them at the same time. So it's been a unique shift for sure.
So we're speaking with Scott Long. He's the principal over at Doherty Elementary. They're heading back to the classroom starting tomorrow. With that, can we, have you been able to get vaccinated yet? What's that process like for you and some of the members of your team? I'm actually working on my appointment. I haven't been vaccinated yet, but a large contingency of our staff has. And so I would say at this point, as we go back into the building, I would say about 70% of our staff has gone through round 1 of the vaccinations. And then most of them, like me, that haven't been are in the queue for our appointments. So what's it been like for you trying to sign up and even getting through to be able to make the appointment? Because we are hearing there is a lot of frustration out there with teachers trying to get in line for the vaccination. I think once you get through like the confusion and the hoops of like how you do it, it hasn't been too bad. And I think a lot of our staff has been pleasantly surprised about that. But I think it depends on the person, right? For some reason, some teachers have had a hard time getting signed up and they can't get through, and then they're not getting an appointment. Whereas other ones have seamlessly jumped on and been able to get that appointment and had their vaccination done already. So I don't understand why that is, but it's very interesting to me. Right. And as a principal, how does the conversation surrounding the vaccine play into your leadership plans? Can you rephrase that question? Like, as a principal, how does the conversation around the vaccine play into your leadership plans? Or does it really at all? Because it's still going to be kind of, just because you have the vaccine, it's not the magic pill for you to go back to life as you knew it before. Yeah, I don't think at this point it makes much of an impact on how I'm leading and what the things that I'm asking our staff to do, because they're still going to have to, regulate social distancing and masks. We're far from being out of the woods with those things, and staff can choose to get those vaccinations when they're ready to do it, right? So it doesn't really impact how I'm leading and what I'm doing and expecting from teachers and students. Are you concerned that we'll see another surge here in Oakland County and you'll have to close down again? Yeah, that's like, I don't want to. I love being in the building and seeing the kids. And so there's always going to be, for the rest of this year, that fear in the back of my mind that we're going to have to close down. And I'm sure that's going to be the case for pretty much all of our stakeholders. No one wants to shut down. The kids are coming to the building. Their parents want them to be here. So that's always going to be in the back of our head. And that's going to, I think, really create a sense of urgency for us to be extra mindful about how we implement the safety protocols that we have in place, right? Because no one wants that. So yeah, it's got to be hard and you're a parent along with being the principal, but at least you have teaching behind you, that experience. I will say one thing coming out of this, I would imagine a lot of the parents out there appreciate teachers a lot more.
They do. And, you know, one of the things I always say, and I've always said this to our families at Doherty, they are just a wonderfully supportive group of families, and they always have been since I've been here. I'm working on year 5 here. They've been amazing, and even more amazing during these times of challenge and requiring parents to be more flexible and agile. They've rallied around us. They've given us compliments and words of affirmation, and along the same lines, they said, wow, we didn't realize how tough this can be. But it's almost unfair, Ronnie, because like kids will listen to another adult more than they typically listen to their parents when their parents are there all day, right? There's always that like tension between a kid and their own parent. And then that's why we send our kids to go play sports with another coach who is outside of it. So like, it's almost an unfair comparison to say, oh, families, you're having a hard time teaching your kid. See how hard teaching is? It's not apples and apples, right? You're comparing apples and oranges.
So with that, anything that maybe we didn't touch on before we let you go?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say, I think this is one of the big reasons why I'm here, is Kindergarten Roundup is coming up soon. So families, if you're in the West Bloomfield community or looking to have your student learn in West Bloomfield, we're actually hosting a Kindergarten Roundup January 20th at 6:30 p.m. It's via Zoom. If families want to find that link and more information about Kindergarten Roundup, you can go to wbsd.org. Under the parent tab, there's a kindergarten page, and it has all that information. And that's what our principals are going to be there explaining how to get your child enrolled, what makes our school district such a unique and amazing school district, and how to get, set up to have a successful transition to kindergarten next year.
And I will say, if you go to your website, it does pop up immediately, so you'll notice it as well, and you can click on it right from there. And are you worried that some parents are going to choose not to enroll their kids because of the hybrid or the in-person, or not being allowed to be in person 24/7?
Well, we don't even know what next year is going to look like, right? We could be full days. We don't know that yet. And so I expect our families to enroll and wait to see what's going to happen. But I also, I'm wondering, some of the families who chose not to enroll their kids this year that should have been in kindergarten, are we going to have a bigger influx of kids than we anticipated? So that's going to be very interesting. I think families are excited to get their kids enrolled in kindergarten and ready to go. I'm looking forward to a great turnout at our Kindergarten Roundup, and I'm looking forward to our new group of kindergartners. They always light up my world as they come in, and it's so much fun to see them grow from kindergarten to second grade before they leave us.
So Principal, with that, do they have to be in the West Bloomfield School District area, or is it open to schools of choice again?
We actually have a school of choice timeline, and so actually families can apply right now all the way until February 2nd. That's when the application for schools of choice stops. And then from there, there's a lottery where kids get selected based on a lottery system, and that happens on February 17th. So any families that apply between now and February 2nd, they will find out by February 17th whether or not they're in for schools of choice.
And how does that work in the middle of a pandemic? Because it's kind of hard to do count day right now.
Oh my gosh, nothing is easy, Ronnie, right? It's hard to do count day. It's hard to let families know that we're going to have Kindergarten Roundup. I mean, this time last year, Ronnie, our Kindergarten Roundup families were in the buildings. We were able to give them tours of classrooms and, see what our cafeteria looked like. And you never have a concern about Kindergarten Roundup in person. They just all show up. They all find out, and they're all there. This year, I'm wondering what it's going to look like, just like attendance and count day and everything.
Well, we're all changing and trying to take things as stride as it comes along, but we're very lucky to have principals such as yourself within our district, and so many great teachers as well, dedicated and passionate about the kids. And good luck having them back in class, and fingers crossed you can stay open the remainder of the school year.
Ronnie, thanks so much for having me on. And again, just thanks to all the families out there that just do a wonderful job supporting us through these crazy times.
Well, let's hope we're on the back end of it though, right?
Yes. Here's to hoping for that.
Scott Long with us. He's the principal over at Doherty Elementary. Again, if you want to find out more about the Roundup, just go to their website and sign up. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back on the Megacast next, we'll be speaking with the chair for the Michigan Democratic Party. This has been the Megacast.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs, even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary. We've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus-test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. And of course, today across the country, we are also celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. He was a social activist and Baptist minister who played such a key role in the American Civil Rights Movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. And I didn't realize this until I was doing some research today that we did not actually start celebrating the Martin Luther King Day until 1986. But while he has been without us for more than 50 years now, his life and his life of service is a reminder of all of us that we can do more and we should be doing more. And so that is such something for us to reflect on, as this is the week that the new president is going to be sworn into office. And it has been quite the past 4 years, but also the past few months as well. To talk a little bit more, we are going to be joined now by Lavora Barnes. She's the chair for the Michigan Democratic Party. Thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure to be here, Ronnie. Thanks for having me.
You know, if we could take a moment and if I could get your thoughts on the events that unfolded in DC on January 6th. What were you thinking when you were seeing those images?
Yeah, Ronnie, I was watching, as many people were. You know, we had been through so much to get to that moment where Congress was going to count those votes that we had carefully counted and certified all over the country. And I have to say, I used the word stunned over and over again, and it's just, I was without words as I watched those folks take over the U.S. Capitol, as I watched folks march through our U.S. Capitol carrying that Confederate flag. That has never been in that Capitol before. It was a rough day for this country and a really hard day for me and my family as we watched it. I never imagined that I would be at home texting our members of Congress to check on their safety as they tried to do their jobs on behalf of Michiganders and of the nation. It was a hard day.
It was really hard to watch. And even after then, we're hearing about some of our elected leaders going out and buying bulletproof vests and helmets. It's like, how did we get here?
Right. How did we get here? How did we allow ourselves as a nation to land here? And I will say, as we sit here together on MLK Day, and a National Day of Service, that many of us who have operated and lived, particularly in brown and black skin in this nation, we will say that some of this was not a surprise. right? And I think that, these folks telegraphed what they were going to do at the Capitol with what they did at Michigan's Capitol before. They marched into that Capitol carrying weapons and made our members feel unsafe. Some of our Michigan members have felt unsafe going to work at their jobs for a very long time now because of this sort of behavior. And, there was a plot to kidnap and kill our governor. All of this happened here in Michigan long before what happened on the 6th in Washington, D.C. So many would say that we could see this coming because we saw it here in Washington. And all of it, fomented by a president who will at this moment do and say anything to try to hang on to power and to build a legacy that he has not bothered to build in the 4 years that he has been president of the United States. It's shameful.
Are you anticipating any more violence this week as Biden is sworn into office?
I have to say, if you've seen any of the video from what's happening right now in the nation's capital, we are ready. This group of National Guards troops and others who have set up barriers and have set themselves up in the nation's capital are ready. It looks to me like for anything. And I think that if there were groups who were planning violence there, they probably are rethinking that given the military presence that is there right now. I don't know what to expect this week. I've been telling everyone I've talked to just stay safe, stay home and stay safe. There's no reason for folks to be trying to get to the Capitol. This inauguration is going to happen and we're going to watch it safely from our homes. And I think that's just the best advice we can give everyone as we work through this.
So how do the Democrats go about trying to heal our country right now? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic on top of all of this.
Yeah, on top of all of that, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris have a tough job ahead of them. But what I know about both of them is that they know how to heal. They know how to reach across the aisle and get work done. And we're going to have very quickly after they're inaugurated, a series of executive orders and other things that will roll out meant to begin to tamp down all of the anger, all of the vitriol, and of course to take care of this virus that we've been dealing with and to make sure that this vaccine rollout gets faster and better for all of us and all of those things. I think that, we're asking Joe and Kamala, as I like to call them, to do big work here, but I know they can do it. I know that a lot rests on their shoulders, but they are strong and they are smart and they are going to be able to handle it and lead us through this.
But what if they're not able to do it? Are we putting too much on their shoulders? Because one thing too for the Democratic Party, we've heard pretty much every time the governor has had a press conference, she's been able to use President Trump as a person to point the finger to. So now he's not going to be there to be able to do that. So
Sure.
What if Democrats can't get this done? Because it's not an easy task that they're faced with right now.
Nothing about this is easy. And one of the things that we as a nation, as a state, are going to have to realize is that it's going to take time. They can't fix all of the problems that have been created by these past 4 years in days. It's going to take time. But what we're going to see very quickly is movement toward that change. And here's the other thing. It's not just on Joe and Kamala. It's not just on Governor Whitmer. It's on all of us. We all have to step up and help sort of tamp down the anger, the vitriol, the rhetoric, and be better citizens of this country. It's on everybody, not just them.
So with us right now, Lavora Barnes, she's the chair for the Michigan Democratic Party. With that, we saw a huge effort this past election to get people out to vote. We are seeing more younger individuals starting to get involved in the political process. Do you think that's going to be a positive that's come out of this trying time?
Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I think that we have taught folks several things, including that their vote does indeed matter. When you stand up and you drag your friends and your family to the polling places with you, you can make a difference, because we did make a difference in this cycle and make a change here that was much needed for this country. And I am thrilled by the number of young folks who have stepped up to get involved, and the folks who aren't so young, who hadn't been involved, who have become involved because of what they've seen happen over the past 4 years. Our goal is to keep them involved, to keep them interested in the political process, and to make sure that they vote again in 2022, because there's always another election around the corner.
Oh, it is, these people, you're constantly campaigning.
Yeah.
Just because we got through a presidential, we also have our local elections as well. During the crisis and the COVID-19 crisis, I do think it started to shine a light on how important our local elections are, because the people we're putting into these seats to represent us, they have a big job. And, you know, for a lot of people, they'll say, oh, I only vote on presidential years. But I think people are starting to see, no, we need to vote and take time and be educated on the people that we're voting for as well. Not just, oh, that's a woman. Oh, that's an Irish name. You know, we know people do that.
Yes, they do. And you're right. And so much about what happens in our day-to-day lives is impacted by the folks we elect locally. These local elections are so important. And I know so many people, as you said, they pay attention to that presidential every 4 years. And part of our job and the job of our elected officials to get folks to understand the importance of participating in every election, not just that every 4-year election. You know, the decision about whether or not you have a stoplight, or the decision about how your roads get taken care of, or the decision about how your water gets cleaned, that happens locally. And those are decisions that are made by people that you may not have actually participated in the election of, and that has to change in order for you to actually get the representation you want. You have to show up and vote every time. And that means you vote every year. And there are elections here in Michigan every year. There's always someone to vote for, and you have to participate, and you have to educate yourself. You have to take the time to get online or go to a meeting or get on a Zoom call and learn something about the folks on the ballot.
Lavora Barnes joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, joining us today on the program. And you talk about needing to make progressive change, and an effort needs to be made by everybody in order to cool the tensions that are currently in our political arena. And part of that is a responsibility to check those that are within your own political party, for us to not be as hardline partisan and my team versus your team as we've seen in recent years, during the Trump administration especially, but even before that, leading into the Trump administration. And we've seen in recent times that checks have been made from Democrats toward Democrats in the state of Michigan with harsh rhetoric that's unproductive. And the same calls are being made now on a national level and a state level toward those members of the GOP that have been spouting unfounded rhetorics of election fraud, or have been fanning the flames of radical people on the very far right that ended up perpetrating the violence that we saw on January 6th, and of course the violence that we saw previously in the state of Michigan, including the plot to kidnap the governor. What needs to happen in these political parties in order to be able to continue to bring forward the policies and the ideas that are supported by those that support your party, but also have the courage to be able to check those within your party when they are doing wrong, or when they are being unproductive, or when they are being divisive?
Yeah, it's a really great question you're asking, because it's a tough spot to be, and I completely understand it, when members of your party have gone too far and they need to be checked. But you know what? This that just happened is so far beyond party. Like, this was about the state of our nation, the state of our democracy. And if you can't have the courage to step up and say, this has gone too far, then perhaps you don't deserve the microphone that you've been given. I think that what we need to do as parties on both sides is adhere to the truth. That seems like the bare minimum. It seems like if you're an average citizen, that seems pretty simple, to ask people to just adhere to the truth. But we have seen over the past 4 years, and particularly in these last few months, that the truth is not necessarily something that folks on the other side actually care about. They will say just about anything in order to make their point and get their point across, to try to win or to try to steal victory from the jaws of defeat. And what we all need to be doing is speaking the truth. And I think the truth will get us a long way in getting into a better place from both sides of the political spectrum.
Taking the perspective of somebody that is a Republican supporter, they're seeing on a national level now that the executive branch is going to be held by the Democratic Party. Both chambers, both the House and the Senate, are going to be in the majority with the Democratic Party. And a lot of people that are Republicans, that are moderate Republicans, and those that are a little more leaning toward Trump Republicanism, although in a moderate sense, may be concerned with that amount of power at the national level. What are you hearing from within the Democratic Party on the national level, from those Michiganders from the Michigan Democratic Party that are working in Congress and are going to be working in the executive branch, about the efforts that will be made from those in the Republican Party on the the Democratic Party on the federal level to reach across the aisle and to keep those conversations open, especially in these times right now where we have so much political turmoil in between the parties, and there seems to be still so much of a clashing between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, if you know anything about our members of Congress, if you've seen them work, you know that they are quite skilled at reaching across the aisle and working with folks from the other party and with independents to get work done. They've had to in the minority, they've done it in the majority, and they will continue to do that. What they won't do, however, is work with folks on so far on the right of the spectrum that they have divorced themselves from reality and truth. They're not going to go there, but they will absolutely be able to and continue to work with folks who are smart and moderate and looking for actual work to get done in Congress, who actually have goals of making this country better for everyone, not just people in red states, but people in all states. Those are the people our folks will be working with, and I know that they will continue to reach across the aisle to get good policy moved forward with those folks.
Yeah, we've fortunately seen in recent weeks, especially coming out of such unfortunate events, that there has been that reaching across the aisle from Democrats to Republicans and from Republicans to Democrats, and we have great representation in our government from the local area, and people like Brenda Lawrence and people like Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow, people like Andy Levin, and then even on the other side, on the Republican Party, people that have stood up and been courageous recently, like Representative Meyer, who were able to say, listen, I'm here supporting my own party. I'm a conservative Republican, but when I see wrong on my side, I'm not going to sit idly by and let that happen. And on top of that, there are ways that we can get our way, but also do things that are productive for everybody involved. And with that, President-elect Biden, his incoming administration, have made a strong effort to say to those across the aisle, those that did not vote for him, even within his own party and certainly those on the other side of the aisle, that he is going to be a president for everybody, whether you voted for him or whether you didn't. Yeah. Those efforts are a lot easier said than done. It's something that many administrations have come in and promised, and then there seems to be a divide after that happens. It's something that is both facilitated by Democratic policy versus Republican policy and Republican policy versus Democratic policy, but it also comes down to a matter of the person in office. Why is Joe Biden, in your opinion, and why is Kamala Harris in the vice presidency, in your opinion, why are they the right people at this time to maybe actually accomplish that, being the president and being a voice and being someone that's willing to listen to ideas and to policies that maybe don't fit their own political mindset?
Right. You know, Joe Biden spent years in Congress himself, and then as vice president. He knows these institutions better than most anybody. He has relationships with folks who have been, who are in leadership and have been in these institutions for years. And these relationships, I think, will make a huge difference in his ability to reach across the aisle, to talk to folks from across the aisle, and to get actual policy made. You know, they're not coming in, Harris and Biden are not coming in with Democratic policies or Republican policies. They're coming in with American policies. They have a plan for this nation, this entire nation. And I think that once they have presented the fullness of that plan, and we're seeing pieces of it already, I think many Americans from all sides will recognize that this is a pair, this team that's coming into the White House is intent on making America better, to build us back to where we were and then take us beyond. And I think that as we watch them step into these roles where they will be comfortable because they have led before and are not afraid to step up and lead even on tough issues, we'll be all very pleased and comfortable with where they take us.
I think a lot of people, and we're joined by Lavora Barnes, the chairperson of the Michigan Democratic Party here on the Oakland County Megacast. And Lavora, I think a lot of people are concerned with those that continuously get reelected becoming career politicians and maybe over time focusing more on reelection and less on their actual political and moral values. That also, I think that also ultimately comes back to why people get into politics and how people are inspired to get into the political arena. We've seen, and you and Ronnie spoke about this earlier on when we were talking about the turnout in this year's presidential election, that a lot of younger people are getting involved. A lot of people that have been on the sidelines previously or say, I'll vote when I have a candidate on the ballot that I really like, or I'll vote on when there's an issue on the ballot that I'm really passionate about, or I'll vote in a presidential election, that are now getting involved in times of turmoil, in times of my issue is on the ballot or my issue isn't on the ballot, my candidate's on the ballot or my candidate isn't on the ballot, and just overall engulfing themselves in the political arena to enact change. What is the Michigan Democratic Party doing on a local level, on a state level, and on a national level to help foster those new people coming into the political arena, those younger people coming into the political arena, to be ready for a career in politics, to represent their local government, in state government, and federal government, but hold on to those values and maybe have a different vision as they approach their career potentially in Washington or in Lansing or in our local municipalities?
It's a great question. You know, we do an awful lot of training and outreach to folks to get folks involved in politics, even if you start at the precinct delegate level, which is an elected position, but is sort of like that entry level elected position within both parties. And it's our goal to reach across and get people involved at all those levels all over the state. You know, we worked hard to get folks running in races all over in all 83 counties, all the way down the ballot, because we know how important it is to build that bench of folks who will start out as young folks who are new to this, but who will grow into being the next state representatives, state senators, and all the way up. But if we don't start getting folks involved locally early as young folks, they don't recognize the value of a career in service to their nation, to their state, and to their community, and then turn that service into an elected office. And I tell folks all the time, you don't have to run for office to be of service, but know that when you do run for office, you are running for a position of service. And I think that we continue that conversation and offer folks up as much training as we can possibly get and as much exposure as we can give them, not only to what offices are available and open, but to the folks who currently hold those offices, to talk about what that job is and what it entails and how important it is to that community and how important it is to have young folks involved, not only in voting for those positions, but also running for those positions all over the state. And also not just youth, but diversity. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the Year of the Woman and how many women ran, but we also ran a lot of people of color. And it's so important that we reach out and make sure we're getting young folks of color involved. We're going to make sure our young folks in the LGBTQ community are involved and are running for office and stepping up to lead, because that's how we make positive change all the way up, is when we start locally and build from there. And so we will continue to do that work, starting locally and building up from there.
Yeah, representation is so important, especially in the political arena, because if you have so many people that are from similar backgrounds, albeit with some differences there, whether it be socioeconomically or in proximity to one another, West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, or Southeast, whatever the case may be, when there's so many similar people in representative government, it's less representative. And so we had the pleasure earlier on of talking with Dave Garcia, the executive director from Affirmations in the local area, that does a lot of great work with the LGBTQ community and the AF community. And with that, as you talk about representation as the Democratic Party and as other parties try to foster that next generation of representatives, what is the Michigan Democratic Party doing to look for people that are from diverse backgrounds and encourage them or help them grow into the ability to not only run for office, but get into office, and then on top of that, more importantly than just getting into office, those that do get into office, helping them promote policies that are beneficial to a wide range of diverse people that make up the state of Michigan, our local municipalities, and of course, our entire U.S. population.
Right, great question. So we have, first I'll tell you that we have, as part of the party, several member caucuses, and these are groups of folks who represent generally underrepresented groups within our party, but sometimes it's just groups within our party who work hard to recruit and work with candidates and help them become more familiar with the process, help them get involved in the process, and then support them as candidates. And support means, you know, volunteer, but also donate money, because we all know politics, running for office costs a little bit of money. And so we have these caucuses that have grown within our party and continue to to grow, and we will continue to grow those caucuses. And I will also point to, we had an organization called Organizing Core 2020, which was designed to recruit young folks from those communities that are underserved, from Black and Brown communities, from the LGBTQ community, to teach them a little bit about what it means to be a campaign staffer. These were paid internships that turned into paid jobs on our 2020 campaign. And this was a great entry for folks into political organizing and political work that allowed them to do it and get paid. Because, you know, so many of these internships that are unpaid are unfair. And who can afford to take an internship when they can't get any money? Everybody needs a little bit of payment. So we were thrilled to be able to partner with the DNC to actually pay folks for these internships, to learn a little bit about the process, to learn how to be organizers. And then once they finish their college year, hire them onto our campaign as part of that large group of organizers we had working here in Michigan this cycle. We'd love to replicate that again for the 2022 cycle. It's a terrific way to get young folks involved and get them that first taste of political organizing, and let them figure out whether or not this is a career they'd like to have, and continue to be a part of it, whether or not it's not for them. And, you know, for some folks it's not for them, and for other folks the bug bites them and they want to do this work forever.
On a policy issue, you mentioned coming with internships that are fair and do pay, that are worth both people's while and experience, but also in pay. There's been a lot of talk recently about one of Joe Biden's intentions coming into office, which is to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Those on the other side of the aisle argue that is going to lead to greater inflation, prices of products being raised, while on the Democratic side, the argument being made is that this brings a method of payment. This brings an amount of payment to people that are working these jobs that makes life more affordable. So from your party's perspective, speaking to those in the opposition, those on the Republican side of the aisle, or those even on the Democratic side of the aisle that may oppose that policy, why is that such a focus going into the Biden administration from the Democratic Party, and how would a raised minimum wage benefit those that are in minimum wage positions to live a better life in our modern society?
Yeah, we've been part of the fight for $15 minimum wage for a long time now, and I will tell you that every time there's been a push to raise the minimum wage, we hear the same set of complaints and warnings from the opposition, which is that, you know, we will increase prices, you won't be able to afford goods and services. But you know the way we do this is actually for corporations to stop taking so much profit, for corporate leaders to stop taking such large salaries. If you look at the gap between what the top earners in some of these corporations make and what the bottom earners make, it is ridiculously wide. And $15 an hour, it sounds like a lot of money when you say it to folks who are making $7 an hour, and I'm thrilled about that and want them to make $15 an hour. If you think about giving folks a living wage that allows them to be able to pay their rent, put food on the table, and get their prescription drugs picked up and paid for, $15 an hour will just barely cover it. So it is, in my mind, the minimum we should be doing for folks. And once we get to that minimum, we need to be fighting to go higher. We need to make sure that we have all of our workers in this country and in this state able to pay their bills and take care of their families without a struggle, without worrying each and every paycheck whether or not they have enough money to make it. Simple.
Lavora Barnes joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the chairperson of the Michigan Democratic Party. Joining us today on the program. And Lavora, much like we saw in 2016 with a sort of red wave across the nation and even here in the state of Michigan, in 2020 was very much a blue wave. We saw the turnout, as you mentioned, much higher than it has been before. A record number of votes for candidate Biden at the time as he became president-elect, as there was also, if you were to just focus on President Trump's numbers, a record number of votes for him as well in comparison to previous elections. The turnout in this election on both sides of the aisle was much greater than it ever has before. But now that the presidential election is in the rearview mirror, now that we're going into a new administration and we're looking forward to 2022 and 2024 and beyond, what is the Michigan Democratic Party doing? What efforts are in place or being planned to keep that political momentum moving, to keep that inspiration moving forward so that people continue to participate even in a year that maybe, hopefully, in the years forward that are hopefully not as contentious as we've seen in recent times?
Right. Well, we continue to have elections that folks should be paying attention to, not just jumping to 2022, but, in 21,
Yes.
mayors and other local officials are going to be on the ballot here in Michigan as well. We know that we've got a great group of folks who are volunteers ready to pick up the phone and call voters again. And once we're able to do it again, get back out on the doors and have conversations in communities. And we intend to continue those conversations all the way through 21 and 22. We're not going to stop. What we saw after 2016 was a huge influx of volunteers who were ready to have conversations, knock doors, make phone calls, and we started that process very quickly after that election in 2017 and 2018. And we saw the results of that in the elections in 2018 and then again in 2020. So we know that it's important for us to continue doing that work, to continue our 83 county strategy where we've got folks ready and able to talk to voters about the issues that are important to them, to talk to voters about the importance of voting in these elections, to talk to voters about our candidates. So we're going to continue those conversations and nonstop. We can't stop. There's no more rest period. There's no more off year. We continue working as a party straight through until the next election and then beyond.
Michigan Democratic Party Chairperson Lavora Barnes joins us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Lavora, we've enjoyed having you on. Thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on or any other information from the Michigan Democratic Party that would be important for our audience to know?
No, just an invitation to anyone who's interested in volunteering. Come to our website, michigandems.com. There's a spot to volunteer. There's a spot to join the party. And of course, there's a spot to donate. And we thank you for your time.
Well, we appreciate your time as well. Thank you very much. Lavora Barnes, the chairperson of the Michigan Democratic Party, with us today on the Oakland County Megacast. We hope to also speak in the future to the chairperson of the Michigan Republican Party as we go forward in our political arena here in the state of Michigan and nationally, hopefully with cooler heads prevailing as time goes on in the wake of our recent events. It's a changing time in our country. There's a new administration coming in on the federal level. There are new Congresses coming in every state and on a national level, new Senates coming in every state and on a national level. It's a time that we have all been saying we need to come together and cool things down, but also move things forward. And hopefully we are moving in that direction. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll come back, talk about some of the things that we've been doing recently and some of our most recent productions that we've undertaken in the greater West Bloomfield community, how you can get involved, how you can find more information, as well as preview what's coming up later on this week on the Oakland County Megacast, and coming up this weekend when our West Bloomfield Lakers battle for the state championship in Division I high school football. That and more coming up. You're listening to the Oakland County Megacast on 88.1 WBFH The Biff and 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as our family of TV stations, Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and also another huge shout out today to our Facebook partners over at the Orchard Mall. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/containcovid.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, our flagship TV and radio stations. In addition, today, as always, we're joined on the radio by 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, as well as Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can find both of our TV stations on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. You can also watch us on the web on civiccentertv.com and on Facebook via Facebook Live. Each day we have a different Facebook partner. That partner today is the Orchard Mall. Many of their businesses still open for business. A lot of retail in there, a lot of small businesses in there. Hey, just yesterday I was over at Premier Pet Supply picking up some more cat food for my two cats, Jax and Idol. A lot of friendly people over at the Orchard Mall. We thank them for joining us today as our Facebook partner. So, about 5 minutes left in the show today, and I think it's a good time for us to go through all the things that we are doing to keep you informed in the greater West Bloomfield community and beyond with what's going on with COVID-19 and other top stories and information. So if you go to our website, and I'll pull it up here for you, civiccentertv.com. We have a bunch of resources there directly for you in your community, hyper-local information, as well as state and national information that you need to know and how it applies to us here in the greater West Bloomfield area. So if you see on the TV side, I'm circling our coronavirus page, and for those of you listening on the radio, that's civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. A lot of important information there. CDC resources on COVID-19 from the state of Michigan, from Oakland County, including local COVID-19 vaccination information that can be received by just clicking on that Oakland County link, and it brings you directly to the COVID-19 page, so you don't have to navigate through all the back ways on their website to find their COVID-19 page. We send you directly to it. In addition, as always, Ronnie and I kick off each and every show here going through our top headlines of the day. We operate this and change this page daily to keep you as informed with the up-to-date information on the vaccine rollout, on other information regarding COVID-19, on new case numbers, and continued information, of course, with this COVID-19 variant, which has made its way into Michigan. We'll keep you updated on that and so much more. We have pages upon pages of information. We've been covering these stories all throughout the pandemic. As I quickly scroll down, I'll cut back to my camera so you don't have to go through deja vu with all these different stories we've been covering since day one of this pandemic. We have 68 pages worth of news stories from the very beginning. That is a historical record of what we've been through over the course of this COVID-19 pandemic. That's on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. For those of you just tuning in to the Oakland County Megacast, we're here every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon for our live shows with replays on Civic Center TV and WBTV, as well as 89.3 Lakes FM at 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. in the evening. But if you miss our show and you want to see those shows on demand when it's convenient for you, you can do that at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Learn more about the show. Learn more about our partnering stations such as 88.1 WBFH. The BIF takes you right to their online web stream by clicking on our BIF link. If you click on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, it takes you to find more information about the Birmingham Area Cable Board, which operates that great community television station over in the Birmingham Bloomfield area. And you can watch our full episodes, or if you're short on time, just the most important sound bites in our short clips link or full-length interviews. If you want to see our interview with Scott Long, let's say you're a Doherty Elementary School parent, that will be on civiccentertv.com/megacast later on today. You'll click on the full interviews, and you can see that. Learn more about what's going on at your kid's elementary school if you are a Doherty Dolphin. That's civiccentertv.com/megacast. And it is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in the United States. We are celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so with that, I must encourage you to join United We Walk. Our 27th annual United We Walk event was yesterday on Sunday, and it is on our website on civiccentertv.com. You can watch that on demand. It's going to be playing all day on Civic Center TV in between our Megacast replays. It will be the only other programming we play in long form on our channel today other than the Oakland County Megacast. And if you go to our website and right on our homepage, you will see a link to our 27th annual United We Walk virtual showcase. I'll go to our homepage real quick. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to the full-length video. But on top of that, it will give you information, as I highlight this on the TV side, about this year's charity organization that was being supported, Blessings in a Backpack, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor. That is on our website, civiccentertv.com. That will do it for today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. For Ronnie Dahl, I'm Tyler Keefe, and I'd like to thank our crew, Larry Nyland and Jake Kustash as well. This has been the Megacast.